Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of What? Ask Me Anything. My name is Amber Hug, and I am the National Education Manager for Schwarzkopf Professional. And so today what I want to do is have you type your questions into the comments. You might be watching from YouTube, you might be watching from Facebook or Instagram. Wherever you are, type your questions into the chat box, and I will answer them for you live today. I am here today. I would love to know where you're visiting from. I'm right here in LA. I am in our corporate office. We have a different time today. We at 9:30, so I'm still able to make it. Type into the chat box where you're from. I would love to see. I live here in California now. We're in our beautiful brand room, and we're really looking forward to being able to answer any of the questions that you all have. Now, just so you are aware, if I cannot thoroughly answer a question that you have, or if it's a very specific question, don't forget that you can always go to our skpedu.com page, and you can book a one-on-one appointment with an education team member, and they can answer very specific questions for you. And you might have missed it yesterday, but we did actually have our virtual classes that are going to happen once a month, and we have them on IGORA VIBRANCE, we have them on IGORA VIBRANCE, Demi permanent, and we also have them on our Blonde Me range. So if you have not yet registered, our last class was yesterday. We have another one on December 8th. So if you missed yesterday, come join us on December 8th. We have all 3 classes, and then the very next day we have one last technique-based seminar that is a cutting seminar. So we're super excited about that. So let's just start typing your questions into the box. In the meantime, we will see if we can answer anything that maybe was left over from last time. So the main questions that we get is some low light formulas on pre-lightened hair foiled line 10 to a level 7-8. Okay, so we're looking for some formulation on pre-hair for foiled and low lights. Low lights can be tricky, right? Because when you're low lightened hair, here's what tends to happen. When you're low lighting pre-lightened hair, the hair can be porous and it can get muddy. First recommendation for you, this is our stain remover, but within our Color Essentials line, we also have something called a hair primer. That hair primer out the porosity of the hair to allow the color to take evenly through mids, lengths, and ends. So first thing I want to remind you is that when you're doing low lights on blondes, the blondes don't want to feel darker. So the first, I guess, tip that I would give you when you're low lighting is make sure you're low lighting from the new growth only about halfway or 3/4 of the way down, and maybe use a conditioner or a toner on the ends. What this does is it creates that dimension in the blonde and allows the ends to stay light. Therefore, you're not going to end up seeing these dark snakes, as sometimes people call them. But if we're talking about actual formulas for low lights, there's some different formulas that we can actually utilize. One of my favorite ranges to use for low lights is the -46 series. -46 is a beige chocolate. These are what we call nude tones. That chocolate really kind of anchors that color into the hair, and it's got that beige first. So because there's enough warmth in this, what happens is you get this really beautiful, natural looking low light shade in the hair. So if you have not tried them yet, there is a level 8-4. That is one of my favorites when I'm doing low lights. If I want a little bit cooler low light, one of my favorites to use is a 9-42. That's going to be just a very soft low light in your pre-lightens, and that's going to first and that little bit of ash afterwards. What that's going to do is it's going to give almost like kind of sandy tone hair, which is going to be just this very natural blonde tone. These are also really great when you want to shadow root a blonde. It's a really great option for you as well. Now, if you really want to go and like lean into warmth, you can see I have a beautiful kind of strawberry blonde color, and strawberry blonde is becoming very popular. So if you go towards that strawberry or keep a little bit of warmth, I love using a -65. It's that chocolate gold. Again, that anchor in that color, and then your gold gives you this nice reflection. This is a really great level 9. We also have it in a level 7. So I like to mix those two together to create a level 8 or even just 9, add a light shade. And if you really want to lean into it, I love adding just this little bit of copper. So the 9-7, I'll add that into my low light formula. If we think about going from lighter to darker, filling hair is usually something that we have to do. So if you're going to do low lighted pieces in the hair, if you add some warmth, add some copper into your formula, you can definitely achieve a bit of a filling while you're low lighting the hair. So we're starting to get some questions to come in, but it was a little bit of a slow start, but I apologize. We started later than normal. Our next one will be at our normal time at 9 a.m. So don't worry, we'll keep it at the 9 a.m. time frame to make it easier for you. But if you haven't started yet, start typing in your questions. Think of things that maybe you've seen happen in the salon that you have questions, or maybe formulas, anything that has to do with any part of Schwarzkopf. But we've got a question here. Hi, I would like to ask how I can neutralize the orange in a shade 7-57 Agora Real without darkening my hair too much. That is a great question. So 7-57 is going to be a level 7, and that's going to be a gold copper. That is going to have a lot of warmth in it. It's strictly gold and copper. So if we think of what's in that, that's going to be your yellow and your orange color molecules. So if you wanted to soften a gold copper, what are you going to do? I always think of what tones are here. So we've got a -57. That's a gold, which is yellow, and a copper, which is orange. So what I like to do first is go to the back page of my swatch book. And I like to pull up this color circle. So I'll find my yellow orange, and I'll come across the color circle and find something that's going to neutralize it. For me, a lot of times in the -57, I like to add a -1. That -1 is a cendre. It's a blue-violet color direction. I think of it like a pearl. So looking at our -1 series, you could always even add in, if you don't want to darken that tone, you can add in an 8-1, level 8 cendre. It's going to give you that slight pearl, that slight smokiness to that 7-57, level 7 gold copper. And then the other part is if you have gray hair, this -1 is also going to give you 100% gray coverage. So it's going to allow you to get that gray coverage and also soften the gold and the yellow in that tone. So try that out. Now, if you do use a level 7, you're not going to make the hair a lot darker. Essentially, what happens with cooler tones is your hair likes to absorb the blue color molecules, so it can appear deeper. But if you're using the -1, you could always mix an 8-1 into that 7-57 formula, or mix a 7 and an 8 together, so you're not going deeper, if you will. So I hope that helped you out. If not, don't forget, go to skpedu.com. You can book a one-on-one appointment. So next question we have here, what is the best root melt to gray blend and keep an ash? So I love that you said gray blend here, because when we think of gray coverage, there's different types of gray coverage. There's that 100% gray coverage, that's that really opaque gray coverage, but then there is an option to get more gray blending within our IGORA VIBRANCE. So when you're using VIBRANCE, you'll first want to make sure that you're using your 13 volume activator lotion in order to get that true gray blending. It's not going to give you 100% gray coverage. It's up to 70% gray blending. So if you want to keep a root melt with an ash tone and get gray blending, you have a lot of options right here on this first page. When you look at this book, you'll notice it goes from naturals and then it goes into cool. So this whole page is either natural or cool. Your natural has this brown tone and your cools have this light gray. So it makes it easy for you to know that they are natural and cool. So for your cool tones, depending on what level you want to go for that root melt, will determine what you use. If you want a little bit of a soft, ashy tone, you can always take a -1. So for instance, your 9-1. If you want more intensity on that ash tone, 8-11, right here, it's a level 8 Cendre Extra, is a really great option to use as your main color. Now, to get maximum gray blending, you do need to add something from our Natural Extra series, which is this -00. If you do want to get, say, 70% gray blending, I would do 2 parts of your formula as 8-11, level 8 Cendre Extra, and you can mix that then with 1/3 your formula as 8-00, which is your level 8 Natural Extra, and of course, your 13 volume activator lotion to achieve 70% gray blending. Now, just know that there's a lot of other swatches on this cool swatch. If you're to a darker level, like a level 6-12, that's that Cendre Ash. That's going to get rid of any orange tones. That's my #1 tone to mix in to really make sure I maintain that really ashy tone. So I hope that helped. If you have a specific level you're looking at, don't forget to book that one-on-one appointment with an educator at skpedu.com. So book your appointment today. Next question we have here. Can you explain how to create cedar in hair? So cedar is going to be different to everybody. If I looked up cedar, I might see like little cedar chips. Cedar can be lighter, it can be darker. So cedar to me has like almost this beigey tone. It's got a bit of a caramel, but it's not super warm. So I'm going to give kind of my ideas of maybe things that I think could be a great cedar tone. And I'm going to one of the shades that I already talked about, which is our -42. When I look at this, I kind of think of cedar chips here. I can see it's, again, that sand color. I like to think of it as when the sun hits the sand, it gives this really beautiful kind of warm tone, but has this hint of coolness to it. And that's like a cedar here. Now this one is a level 7, but also you have that in a level 9 as well. So you have different options on that. Now another color that I like to think of as cedar in a deeper tone is our -16. So these are deeper tones. It's a level 5 and it's a level 6. And this is going to have that cendré first, which is blue violet, and it has a chocolate to really anchor that color in. So it gives you this beautiful, almost mushroom brown sort of shade. So it gives you that little bit of warmth with that chocolate, but it smokes it out. So again, if you want to get a little bit more specific as to what cedar looks like to you, I always say in salon, I'm sure you're all doing it already, but if somebody came to me and said, I want a cedar color, I would have them show me photos of what cedar is to them. So you can really make sure that you're getting that exact tone you're looking for, but those are some great options. So next question we have here, do you low light without highlights? Absolutely you can. So if you want to do a light and you don't want to do highlights, that is an option. So it depends on what your end result's going to be. So maybe somebody's been doing a bleach in tone all their life and they want to grow out their natural. Low lights can be utilized to really break up that distinct line that is in that blonde hair. But because that hair is so light and so porous, just remember for those low lights, make sure that you're mixing in some sort of warmer tone, whether that's a -5 gold or whether that's a -7 copper. Mix in some sort of warmer tone to act as a filler so that it's the color that you want. Now, if you're doing that, you can always just low light through that hair and do low light slices. I found when it's a true bleach and tone, the slices are going to give you more of that blending and that dimension. You just want to make them really fine slices so that they really blend. So you don't have to do highlights with it, especially if you know that client is going to go darker. So low lights can be done on their own. And if you are just trying to tone somebody's hair down, it's always a great option. You can always shadow root and then pull some low lights. And then the lighter pieces then become your highlights. So just think of how much of that lighter shade you want to see, and you're adding that depth so that the highlights are just what's already in the hair. So excellent question. Love that one. Next one we have here is I used TBH formula, 2 parts 8-8. That is a level 8, and that is a red beige. And 1 part of 8-04, which is a level 8, and that's a natural beige. What can I use to achieve this formula in IGORA Real? Excellent question. So for those of you that don't know, TBH stood for True, Beautiful, Honest. It was the Schwarzkopf Professional has been discontinued. Its main claim to fame is that it was sat somewhere between a permanent and a demi-permanent range in its coverage. It had 100% gray coverage, but it was multi-dimensional. So we ended up getting rid of it because we found between IGORA Real and IGORA Vibrance, we were able to get all the jobs that we needed done in just those. And we had IGORA Zero, which is our ammonia-free range. So it just became confusing to have that. So if you're looking for the same results that you got utilizing 2 parts of a level 8 red beige with 1 part of a level 8-04, which is a natural beige, I honestly would start, and I know you asked for IGORA Real, but I'm going to start with IGORA Zero first, and then I'm going to move to IGORA Real. So if you're in IGORA Zero, the reason I'm mentioning this is IGORA Zero is our ammonia-free range. You are getting 100% gray coverage with IGORA Zero, but sometimes that gray coverage is slightly less opaque than it is with IGORA Real, and the tones tend to be a little bit more natural. So the reds that you're going to see in this range are going to be a little bit softer than maybe the reds that you're seeing in IGORA Real. So in this, I know you're talking about a level 8-84, so you're going to want to stick to a level 8 as the majority of your color. So when we look at our shades that we have here, I would take our 8-46, that's a level 8, and that's a beige chocolate. And I would mix most of your formula with this. Now, I know you needed some gray coverage because you added the 8-04, so you can add into that formula. So maybe 1/3 is 8-46, 1/3 is 8-0, which is a natural, and I would add in, I know it may sound weird, but just a little bit of this 6-88, not even a third of your formula. I would say a quarter of your formula at best. I know that that's a level 6, but our reds are pretty intense. You just need a little bit of that red tone. So I'm almost thinking mixing half of your formula 8-46, half of your formula 8-0. So that's a natural and a beige chocolate, and only adding in 5 grams of 6-88. That's just enough to give that slight pinky tone that you're getting within TBH. Now, if we're in the true Agora Real and you're looking for something similar, so when we go to Agora Real, our gray coverage shades are over in the boots, and I'm pointing you this direction mainly because that 8-4 is almost like a dusty rose gold is what it is. So I would say that using mixing like a level 8 and a level 9-140, that's that cendre, and that's a beige with a natural. So mixing a level 8 and a level 9 to get you true between, because you're going to add in 6-80. So kind of like with Agora Zero, I would mix most of your formula with a 9-140, which is cendre beige natural, with half of your formula as a level 8, and that's that cendre beige natural, and then mixing in just about 5, maybe 10 grams of the 6-80. That's why I'm having you mix the level 7 and 8 together, but because you've got that cendre and that beige, it's going to give you kind of that dustiness that you get with the 8-84. So I hope that helps, but if not, feel free to book your appointment, your one at skpedu.com, and you can get more specific with those formulas. So next up, you are a colorist in Virginia. The brunt of my clients are textured hair, and whenever I'm a long user of SKP, however, I notice when I tone, it's really opaque, darker. Any suggestions? All right, so let's talk for a minute about textured hair. There are so many different hair types, and even in textured hair, if hair is curly, what we have to remember is that a strand of hair is not the same. So you have different things to bear in mind. One, is it straight? 2, is it curly textured? And if it is, how curly? Is it coily? Is it slightly wavy? Because those bends, the area where the hair bends, tends to be a little more brittle or not as strong as the areas that are not bending. So when we think of textures, there's fine hair versus coarse hair. So I'm guessing that a lot of your texture clients maybe have a finer texture, or maybe they just have a lot of texture, and so they've got the hair bends that tends to be not as strong. So when we have that, that type of hair can be more dry. More dry typically means more porous. More porous means it's going to grab those darker tones. So I have 2 tips for you on those clients. Tip number 1, add gold to your formula. That gold is just going to be like in your 9.5 or level 10 toner. If you want to add like a -5, like for instance, if you wanted to add like a 10-5 into your formula, that's an excellent choice. If you wanted to add 9.5-5 into your formula. The other option is to add a booster. I know it may sound weird, but when you add gold into hair, that gold is going to kick out any unwanted, or like it's going to help to fill in those sites. So I would also consider using your 0-55, which is going to be in the back of this. Using your gold extra is a filler in that hair, so adding just a few drops of this to help keep that golden reflection. But the first step before you even color hair that's textured like that likes to take uneven, again, in our Color Essential tools, it will be in this black and white like this. However, it has a spray pump at the top. It's called our hair primer. That hair primer can be sprayed into the mid-lengths and ends to really even out the porosity of hair. So I would take that product, spray it in evenly, comb it through evenly, let that sit, go mix up your color, come back and put your color on that has a little bit more gold tint to it. The other option, and it's a little trick I like to do with most refreshes on mid-lengths and ends is I like to actually mix my desired tone with clear 0-00 equal parts. So for instance, say I really want 7-65 as my main tone. I'm refreshing those mid-lengths and ends because I know that hair tends to like to pull a little bit deeper because it's porous and it grabs that color. I'm going to take this -65 and maybe mix it equal parts with my 0-00 clear. That's going to dilute that formula, but still keep that gold chocolate toner to it. So again, my tips are: first, spray the hair with hair primer. That's going to even out the porosity. Formula on mid-lengths and ends with a clear to shear it out. And 3, start to add gold to all of your formulas to keep that reflection and allow the hair to grab the gold color before it grabs onto the blue. So I hope that helps. I always like to give the reason behind why we're doing what we're doing. But again, you can go to our skpedu.com and book a one-on-one appointment. Also, don't forget, if you want to download some of these things, like I've shown you a color circle, we talked about the number system, we do have our Switch with skp.com page, and under there is a download center. From that download center, you can download swatch charts, you can download the color circle, you can download the number system. So any tools that you need, pack shots, anything are right there in the download center. So it's going to have everything that you need. So next question I have here, I have 0.5-98 in Vibrance with 6 volume lotion on level 10 hair, and it never takes. Please help. Okay, 9.5-98. The first thing I want to talk about is that is a toner. So that toner, 9.5-98, you can see here is like this soft bubblegum pink. So it really depends on what level hair you're putting this 9.5-98 on as to whether it'll show or not. The thing about the 9.5 series, or I know you typed in 9,5, on the tube of color itself, a lot of times it will say 9,5, and on the swatch it might say 9.5 or 5, but you will know. So here's a 9,5, 9.5, 9,5 all means the same thing. In Germany, they use a comma, and the US, they use a dot. So it's the same thing. So that actually means it's a toner. That means it's more sheer pigment weight. That also means my color needs to be at least a level 9 or above in order to take. If I'm not at least a level 9, what happens is the pigment weight that's here is not enough to show up on those darker levels. So potential wasn't lifted enough for you to see the 9.5-98. If you're like, no, Amber, it was definitely pale yellow, it should have taken, your next step is go ahead and use that hair primer that we've talked about several times and spray that into the hair first and comb it through. The hair could just be not wanting to take because maybe it's super porous and it's grabbing on but letting go before it even gets a chance to take it. Your third option, try 13 volume. If 6 volume is not depositing it, maybe try your 13 volume, see if that'll be enough to grab. And then the other option, that's something that we don't sometimes think about, is adding just a dab. I know it's going to sound weird, but if you're using 9.5-98, you're a little bit of a pink. Try adding a couple of drops of 6-8, level 6 red extra. This will add just that tiny little depth and just allow the hair to grab that red molecule and allow you to see some of that pinkiness. So if you're not seeing it, one reason could be maybe you're not lifted enough, you're not that pale yellow. That's one option. Option 2 is maybe you need to use your hair primer to allow it to take. If that's still not taking, potentially try your 13 volume or add just a tiny bit of 6-88 into that formula to really kind of deepen slightly and give you more of that pinkiness. So I hope that helped. If you have a specific question on that, again, to where you can talk about what level, all of that, feel free to book a one-on-one appointment with an Ask Expert at skpedu.com. All right, is the processing solution a 2% peroxide or less? So I'm not sure which processing solution you're talking about. So if you're in Vibrance, what's really great is it tells you on the bottle itself what it is. So if you look here, this says 1.9%, 6 volume. So it's under 2%. Now in our Blonde Me range, we do actually have, and I don't have one right here, but we have one that's a 7 volume. That 7 volume is 2%. So if you're looking for a 2%, you're going to either use your Blonde Me 7 volume, which is your 2% peroxide, or you can use, this one's going to be under 2%, your 1.9% 6 volume. That's going to be just under that 2%. So we have two options. Now remember, the activator for Vibrance is meant to be used with Vibrance. Your Blonde Me activator is meant to be used with Blonde Me. And we do have toners within the Blonde Me range as well. So you're always welcome to use the Blonde Me with the Blonde Me toners also. So great question. If you need more detail on that one, you can always our support line or check out skpedu.com to book your appointment. So next question here. What can I use to lighten the base if I'm doing a balayage? Should I just lighten the base with permanent color and then do the highlights? This is actually a question that I think is really excellent. If any of you have been with Schwarzkopf for a very long time, you know we used to have something called high power browns. It was almost like a high lift for you brunettes. Brunettes are challenging because you want to get some lift on their natural, but you're not trying to make them blonde. So what can you use to lighten their base? And you know what? You are absolutely right. You can use a permanent hair color to lighten base. Now, if you're doing a balayage to your point and you want to go ahead and lighten that base first, you have the option to use a permanent hair color to lighten that base. So I'm going to talk about that first, and then I'm going to give you a secondary option because we do have an option in our Blonde Me range as well. So whenever I want to lighten a darker base, I try to find a shade that is lighter but is also cooler. Because remember, anytime you're creating lift, you're going to get warmth. So you want to make sure that you're cooling it down so you don't end up with too much warmth. So some options. We have a 7-21. On its own, it has a lot of blue. That means it's going to counteract any warmth as it lifts. So using 7-21 with 20 or 30 volume will help to give you lift. Appearance might be closer to a level 6 brunette. Because there's so much coolness here, it may appear deeper. Now, if you want to ensure slightly lighter than a level 6, I like to mix my 8-11, level 8 Cendre Extra with my 7-2, level 7, and that's that blue or ash, and Cendre, which is blue violet. These two together are really great to lift that base. We do have a new shade that was just launched, which is a -23. And that one's going to have that blue and that green. So 6-23 can create that lift with 20 or 30 volume, but it also cools it off. Now, the other option that you have, did you know we actually have base breakers in Blonde Me? What is a base breaker, you ask? It is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to give you up to 1 level of lift on virgin hair. Now, it is in a bottle form. So the bottle itself will come in a box like Vibrance, but it'll be in the Blonde Me coloring. So it'll come in a box like that, and it has a bottle inside. It is a liquid that is mixed with either your 7 or 20 volume Blonde Me developer, and it only needs to on the hair for 10 minutes. So if you're only trying to lift a level, maybe a level and a half, maybe try using the extra cool base breaker in Blonde Me mixed with your 20 volume Blonde Me developer. Let that sit for only 10 minutes. That's all you need. Then go ahead and rinse that out of the hair, blow dry, and go ahead and do your balayage. So you have the option of using a permanent color to create that lift or using a base breaker. But that was an excellent question. I have been able to do it before with a balayage, but I will paint in the shadow root first, and then on my pieces that I'm balayaging, I'll paint the permanent color on the new growth area, paint the lightener, and then mix the two in between. I know it might sound weird, but you have to remember the stronger man wins. So the lightener is stronger than the color, so it's going to lift through, but it may not lift as much in that area as it does in the areas on the end, which if you're doing a soft balayage might be nice, because you've got this darker color that's lighter than their base, and it gets softly lighter at the in-between where they meet, and then you've got the lightness of that lightener on the ends. So you can do it both ways. You could do a permanent color all over first, and then go in with your balayage, or do it all in one step, whatever you feel most confident with. So next question, why won't you use highlights the base when you're doing the balayage? Why won't you use to highlight the base when you're doing the balayage? I'm not 100% sure what this question is. I think it's maybe worded weird. Why wouldn't I highlight the base when doing the balayage? is one way that I'm looking at it. And I will highlight the base when I'm doing a balayage. If I'm doing a balayage and I'm looking at gray coverage, a lot of times I'll paint in a shadow root first, but maybe I'll just only paint out a little ways and cover the gray and kind of comb it out a little bit. With a balayage, you want it to be softly darker into lighter. And so a lot of times I'll take a section of the hair, I'll go through, weave out my highlight, move that out of the way, and it's in the same section as my balayage that I'm doing. And when I'm doing that weave, I'm bringing my comb down into that section a little bit so that hair actually looks like you can't tell where that lightness is coming. So I'll take out my weave, I'll move that back out of the way, I'll take the remaining section and either balayage this entire piece or weave this out and only balayage part of it so it's even softer. Back comb the balayage, release, then pull your highlight down and go ahead and highlight that in foil. And if I've got that base color, usually I'm getting softly to the top anyway, so I can always paint all the way to the top. I can do the highlights with the balayage. So I hope that answers that question. Again, skpedu.com if you have a more specific question or if maybe that wasn't the answer you were looking for. So next question, can I refresh with Agora Real the last 15 minutes? So that's a personal preference. Are any of you on this in the industry long enough that, you know, demi-permanent wasn't a thing? You only had your permanent hair color. So what are the ways that we took a permanent and we made it a demi-permanent? Well, either let that color sit in the bowl for like that whole time. By this point, you might re-stir it before you're done. And then you go ahead and paint that through the mid-lengths and ends for the last 5-10 minutes. What happens when you stir that is any ammonia left over in that bowl is going to dissipate out and you're going to pull that through. Technically, you can still do that. The main reason we don't do that anymore is because we want to be as gentle as possible when refreshing mid-lengths and ends. But I also, as a stylist, don't like to be wasteful. So if you wanted to refresh the mid-lengths and ends and you had a lot of color left over, maybe do that. Now, the other thing, and I'm going to step out of my Schwarzkopf box here, the other thing I have done to my own hair that is not recommended. I used to sometimes take my leftover color that I had and I would add conditioner to that leftover color, stir that together, and pull that through mid-lengths and ends. Again, not manufacturer recommended, but I'm an old school stylist. Those are things I used to do back in the day before a demi-permanent was available. If we think about it, conditioner is going to have more of an acidic base. So I'm mixing that with my bowl of color that has that alkaline base. So I'm bringing down the alkalinity of that color by adding in the conditioner and using that as a refresh. So is it something that we recommend at Schwarzkopf Professional? No. Is it something I have done on my own hair and it has worked? Absolutely. So if you're going to do it, just know that it's not recommended. Maybe do a test strand first just to make sure it works for you. But if you're like me and you don't want to have to mix a new bowl of color of demi-permanent, that's something I have done. So take it as you will. It's a creative way to use it. So next, hi, can you explain the difference between your lighteners? Love this question because it's confusing, right? Let's see. I have my white container. I have my blue container. That's just in my Vario Blonde. Then I have Blonde Me9 Plus, but then I have a clay lightener. And then I also have a precision lightener. That's a lot of lighteners, right? So how do I decide which one? So first I want to let you know the Schwarzkopf has a gigantic toolbox. Does that mean you need every tool in the toolbox? Probably not. There's a lot of tools out there. There's wrenches, screwdrivers, things like that. I guarantee you I maybe have a couple of screwdrivers at home and a hammer. I definitely don't have a full toolkit. So think of the tools that you need and why you need them. So I'm going to explain each tool and when to use them. Let's start with Vario Blonde. We have two lighteners in Vario Blonde. One is in this white container, and it is our Vario Blonde Plus. This one is a great everyday lightener. What I will tell you about this lightener is it is a blue powder. So what that means to you is it has this blue color to it. Now, that blue color is only there to mask the yellow. It does have an anti-yellow technology, but that blue color is more so because when we first brought this lightener out, it was the only lightener available. And if you watched your hair turn yellow in the mirror, you kind of freaked out. So the blue was more mask the yellow. This lightener gets to 7 levels of lift. and it can be used on or off scalp. So it can be used for all over global lightening. It can be used for highlighting. It is meant to be used with our IGORA VIBRANCE developers. You can use 10 and 20 volume on scalp and up to 30 volume off scalp. This is an amazing everyday lightener. I call it your Volvo. It's going to get you where you need to go, and it's going to get you there gently and slowly. It's not a workhorse. It's not going to work with, but honestly, it's a very reliable everyday lightener. Now, Vario Blonde Super Plus. It's going to work very similar. Your biggest difference between the Super Plus and the Plus is this is actually a white powder. I feel like in the modern day, a lot of people are enjoying a white powder because with a white powder, you can see where that color has lifted. So you can see exactly what color yellow you were at. So therefore, if I'm doing a highlight and I open up my foil with a white powder, I can see exactly where I'm lifted. If I have a blue powder, I might have to wipe that lightener off to see exactly where that yellow is. That's one of the main differences between these is just this is a blue powder, this is a white powder. The only other difference, technically you get one extra level of lift with the Vario Blonde Super Plus. So instead of 7 levels of lift, it's up to 8 levels of lift. You are still using this lightener with your 10 or 20 volume IGORA VIBRANCE developer on scalp, up to 30 volume off scalp. This is also a great everyday lightener. It can be my Volvo. It's going to get me where I need to go, and it's going to get me there gently and slowly. These are both amazing everyday lighteners for if I want to do caramel blonde highlights, or if I want to go blonde, but I'm not trying to get to that white blonde, or maybe my client's a base level 6 or above, and I don't want the power of a different lightener. These are amazing everyday lighteners. Now, let's move into Blonde Me. Let's start with the one we all know best. Our Blonde Me 9+ lightener. This is also a blue powder. So it is a lighter blue than our Vario Blonde, but you can see it has a slight blue tint to it. This lightener is your workhorse. This is the Ferrari of lighteners. This one is going to get you where you need to go, and it's going to get you there super fast. This is when I want to take hair from black to platinum blonde. This is when I have really dark level 2 to 4 hair that needs to go all the way to blonde. This is it. This lightener is too much for my hair. Likes to be blonde. The blonde piece in front is done with a high lift. This would not be good for my hair. It would lift in 2 seconds, be ready to take off. This is more for somebody who has really dark hair naturally and they pull a lot of warmth and I need to really get them light. This is my workhorse. So this one is for those jobs. And that's only, it's not my everyday lightener. It's not going to get me to caramel. It's going to get me way past caramel. Now the benefit to this, when about the regular Vario Blonde lighteners, these have a distinct mixing ratio. 1 part powder lightener to 1 part developer. 2 parts developer. So it's a 1 to 2 ratio. 1 part powder lightener, 2 parts developer. Dedicated mixing ratio. Blonde Me 9+, flexible. I can do 1 part powder lightener to 1.5 or 2.5 parts of my developer, and it's going to work the same regardless. It's going to give me the same amount of lift. So with this, you can make it thicker for more, balayage techniques, or thinner if you're trying to foil the hair. This also is on scalp up to 20 volume. Now, we do have a clay lightener. I think it's pretty obvious. Most of us have used a clay lightener. In the Blonde Me range, our clay lightener has this white stripe on the container. It is also a white powder. So when you open this container, you can see it is a white powder in here as well. This one is meant for hand painting techniques. This one will get a little bit of an outer shell and maintain moisture on the inside of the hair, so you don't have to use foil or plastic wrap between pieces. It is meant to be off scalp only, and this is going to be used with your dedicated Blonde Me developer. You can use it with your 20, 30, or this is the only one in the range you can do this. You can actually use Blonde Me clay lightener with 40 volume Blonde Me developer, but only in open air techniques. So no other lightener is meant to be used with 40 volume, just your clay lightener when you're in open air techniques. Now your clay lightener is going to be more natural balayage. We're thinking like a brunette with a caramel balayage, a natural blonde who's a level 7 that has a sun-kissed look. This is only giving you up to 7 levels of lift. It's not going to be a workhorse like 9+. If you need the lift like this, you're trying to do a balayage, you'll need foils and need to use your Blonde Me 9+. But if you're using your clay lightener, it's going to be more of that natural lift. Now, last but not least, we have another lightener that we brought out called Precision Lightener. This is still the 9 Plus, but the Precision will have a purple line at the top. So it's also going to be a white powder, and it's also only 7 levels of lift. It's called Precision because it's meant for precise applications. It's an on-scalp lightener meant to be put right on the scalp, and it has an anti-metal technology to it that allows it to stay where you put it and not expand over the line of demarcation. So it's really great for those precise applications, and it has a temperature balancing complex. In English, a cooling sensation for the scalp, so a more pleasant experience. That hair with our fashion lights. Our fashion lights can give you up to 5 levels of lift and tone in one step, even on previously colored hair. So depending on how much red she wants to see, we do have a couple of shades that have red in them, and you could utilize these shades. Now for me, I like to say, somebody who's never had red, I like to start with a small amount of red. So I think highlighting some pieces through is going to be your best option. Now, these two shades are very bright. L-88, my red extra, and L-77, my copper extra, are very vibrant. If that's too much, you can always mix these with L-44 and get something a little bit softer. So you could always highlight these in. That is an option. Now, she wants an all-over color. The other option that you can do is use our color remover. Our color remover comes in a white box. It's part of our Color Essentials tool. It's a white box. It has 2 sachets, sachet A and sachet B. Sachet A is a powder. Sachet B is then a conditioner. And with your 6 volume activator lotion, you could mix this into it. It's going to give you just that 1 level of lift. What that's going to do is shift out the depth or coolness, warm that hair up just a little bit. So if I was going to do that to try to warm up all of the hair, I would wet her hair at the shampoo bowl first. Sachet A is 30 grams, sachet B is 30 grams, 30 and 30 is 60. So you need 60 grams of your 6 volume Vibrance activator to get that 1 level of lift. It's just enough to softly lift out the other and create a little bit of warmth. So those are your options. You can use the fashion lights, do some highlights through, add some red, or do a color remover all over. Lift that base just a little bit, and now you can add red to your color formula when you go over the rest of the colors. So I hope that helps. If you need a more specific answer, again, don't forget to go to our skpedu.com page and book your one-on-one appointment. All right, hello, pre-toning and post-toning difference. That sounds more like a statement, but let's talk about pre-toning versus post-toning. Pre-toning is just that. It's like a primer for a wall. So if I have behind me a yellow wall, or let's take this. This is my yellow wall here. If I have this yellow wall and I decide I want a gray wall, if I just paint gray over top of this yellow, what do you think is going to happen? Tell you, in gray, there's this lovely color molecule called blue. And blue and yellow make this really pretty murky green. So this is just going to turn green. So what my pre-tone does is it's my anti-yellow. I know to get rid of yellow, I need its complementary color, which is violet. So I'm going to choose something with a violet. Maybe that's 9.5-1. Or if I'm this yellow, I might need 9.5-21, a little bit with a blue. But not much, Sandra. You need that violet to kick out. So my pre-tone then could be 9.5-1, that cendre, that pearl color, or it could be a 10-1, depending on how light that yellow is. That's my pre-tone. What that is going to do is prime my wall. This is now a white wall. We no longer have yellow. We've turned that to white with our pre-tone. That gives us then a better base to then choose whatever toner we want to put on that hair, and it's going to come out like it's supposed to. So let's give an example. If I took, say, 9.5 on a yellow wall, what do you think is going to happen? This is gold. If I put gold on top of yellow, it's going to be really gold. But if I want gold, great. That's exactly what I want. But say I want a cooler tone. Well, this is not going to work. I need to first use like a 10-1 or 9.5-1 to really make this now white, like what this swatch is. I need it to be more white. Then I can get creative and put whatever tone over. So pre-toning just gives us, it's the primer for the hair essentially. And then my final toner is then the tone that I really want to see. So my pre-tone gets rid of unwanted warmth. My final toner is exactly what I'm looking for in the hair. So I hope that answers that question. I feel like that's what you were asking. Next question here. I'm having a hard time with 9-55 Vibrance not being gold at all. I've tried to use it to neutralize blondes that pull too icy, but no luck. Recommendation, 0-55, our gold booster. Add it to your 9-55. You are correct. Our 9-55 is not super gold. It is a level 9 and it is called Gold Extra, but if we look at this swatch, it's a natural gold tone. It almost has this like brown base and a gold reflection. So what's happening is there's too much of a brown base for that gold to really pop. So if you take 9-55 and you add a little bit of 0-55, at least 10 grams into that formula, that 0-55 can be scary. You're like, Amber, that's straight up yellow. Yeah, but you want gold, right? You want to see that gold. If you want gold, then you're going to have to add that yellow in. So 0-55 added into that formula is what's going to give you that gold. Fun fact, one of Tracy's favorite, I guess we'll call it a gold rinse that she likes to do, is using 9-55 with 0-55 and, interestingly enough, 9-7, our level 9 copper. So 0-55, 9-7, and 9-55 equal parts with clear. And she'll use that all over the hair as a gold rinse. Now you might be like, whoa, she puts copper on blonde hair. Like that doesn't look good when it's done, does it? Actually, it does. It's like she leaves it on for maybe 5 minutes max. It's just the right amount to really give that gold reflection. So maybe try that. Again, equal parts 9-55, 0-55, which is level 9 gold extra, and then our 9-7, level 9 copper with equal parts clear, and your 6 volume activator for just 5 minutes, and see if that can help you out. So hopefully that helps. Next question, my level 9 blonde client, who I do gray coverage on, says her color does not last more than a week and a half. She's almost 100% gray, and I'm using IGORA Real on her. Please advise. So first question is, ask her if the color is fading off of her hair or if her hair is growing out. Because hair grows out, right? It's not going to stop growing. So a lot of times when somebody's seeing gray, it's not that the color faded off. Sorry. It's not the color faded off. Typically what's happening is the hair has grown out. So now she's seeing a bit of her gray. So that would be question number 1. Is it fading off of the hair? Question number 2 is she coming in with anything on her hair? Like, does she use any sort of wax crayon or something on her new growth? Does she use anything to cover her gray in between? Because sometimes that can keep the color from taking, and maybe it's not taking as much. Another option that you can do is maybe try in our Blonde Me range. We do actually have what's called lift and blend shades. These lift and blend shades come in a box like this, but on the end it'll say LB instead of L. And what these do is these create up to 4 levels of lift on the naturally pigmented hair and tone the white hair, giving 100% gray coverage and a multi-dimensional blonde. So maybe try using the lift and blend shades on her, see if you get more of that, or add a little more -00, which is our natural extra, or even try our absolutes range. The absolutes range in IGORA Real actually has 30% more pigment weight than our regular IGORA VL. So maybe try something in this category. The other benefit with this is that it has silyamines, which help smooth the hair cuticle, and collagen to fill in the brittle sites. And it has 30% more pigment. So either try one of those. You try those and she's still saying that it's growing out, chances are coming off. It could just be she's seeing her new growth. Have her come in a little more frequently. So I don't know if that was the answer you're looking for, but hopefully it helped. Next, what formula can I use for virgin hair that wants Cowboy Copper? So Cowboy Copper is still in. Copper in general is very in. I found Cowboy Copper started as almost a darker color, but now it's starting to become a little bit lighter. So I have some options for you for Cowboy Copper. One of my favorite options, if you want to just use one shade and not have multiple shades, is our -57, which is not on this page. I probably moved it somewhere or got it out, but it is a gold copper. So it has that gold first, and then it has a copper reflection. So that's one of my favorites for doing that. But another option, and actually we just did this on, if you know who Shelby Hepner is, she is an REM on the team. And we just did her color, and what we did is we mixed a 6-46, and that's at level 6 beige chocolate. It's got that beige first, and then it's got a chocolate background. So at a level 6, we added this in with our 7-77 level 7 copper extra, and this created this really beautiful Cowboy Copper on her at a level, like between a level 6 and a level 7. So these two together are beautiful. The 6-46 with the 7-77 equal parts. The other option is, again, that -57. We have a level 7-57, which is gold copper, and a level 5-57, which is level 5 gold copper. And those are beautiful natural auburn tones that really read well as that Cowboy Copper. So next, I have a client that has white hair. I do use primer. It looks opaque. I use 10 volume, or should I use 30 volume? I've done both ways, and I've never used 30 volume and don't want hot roots. So great question. So when you're using hair primer, the first thing to remember is if you're doing gray coverage, you don't want to use hair primer on the regrowth area. That hair primer is more for the mid-lengths and ends so that you're evening out the porosity there. So on your regrowth, actually, you don't want to use hair primer. So avoid using it. Wait until that regrowth color is on, 1. 2, if you're not getting 100% gray coverage, go to 20 volume next. 20 volume is our regular developer that we recommend for gray coverage. So anything that gives 100% gray coverage, use 20 volume if you have a medium to coarse texture. So if 10 volume is not covering enough, try 20 first before going to 30. The reason you've heard 30 volume, there is a series called -00, which is natural extra. There's 25% more pigment weight in these. And essentially, if you are under 90% white, we recommend 30 volume. But the reason for that is because this pigment is very dense. If you think of a pigment that is not, like, I guess, expanded yet, a flat balloon. Think of the pigments in a tube of color as a flat balloon. When the balloon is flat, it's a very dense, rich color. As you start to blow it up, it becomes more sheer. So at 20 volume, that's perfect for 100% gray because I put that 20 volume on and it still got the density of that pigment weight. But if I take that same balloon and put it on already colored hair, that balloon could look slightly deeper. So we say 30 volume to make the balloon a little bit bigger and slightly more sheer for that hair that is already pigmented. So that's why I say try 20 volume first. And if 20 volume isn't enough, you can always go to 30. It could open up the hair cuticle more, maybe drive that back in, but just start with 20 and either use the absolutes or the -00 series into your formula for that extra pigment weight. And I know we are at time, but I'm going to do one more question because I started late. So therefore, I'm going to give you one extra question here. So the next question, what do you suggest gray root touch up from level 6 to a cooler tone 8? There's more gray in the temples and in the front. First and foremost, the hairline around the hair should always be treated different than the rest of the hair. The hairline is A, typically finer than the rest of the hair, and B, a lot of times can be more gray. So you can treat that as a whole different formula than you do for the back. That's one. So one, I would go maybe slightly lighter on those areas around the hairline, but then you can also, too, make sure that you're adding something that has extra pigment weight around the hairline, but maybe you don't need that extra pigment weight in the back. So depending on how light you want to go, will determine the shades that you use. But 8-11 is one shade that I've talked about a lot. So if you're going from a level 6 to lighter, 8 8 Cendre Extra. That's really going to get rid of a lot of the warmth that you're going to see as you start to lift through that hair. So this is going to be a big portion of that formula. Now, to get that 100% gray coverage, you can use a dash 0, or if the hair is really resistant, you can use a dash 00, which is that natural extra. That's these shades here. There's 25% more pigment weight. So 2/3 of your formula can be to your desired shade, this level 8-11, and then 1/3 of your formula could be an 8-00, which is your level 8 natural extra. If you're around the hairline, that is where you definitely want to have that extra pigment weight, but also the hair can take deeper. So maybe around the hairline, you mix that 8-1, the level 9 dash, create something a little bit lighter hairline to make it look more natural, but have that extra pigment weight. So I hope that helps. If it did not, don't forget to book your one-on-one appointment with an Ask Expert at skpedu.com. Thank you all so much for joining me. Just a quick reminder that we do have our free virtual classes once a month. The next one is on December 8th, and we will have 3 of them. One for Agora Real at 9 a.m. Pacific time, one for Agora Vibrance at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time, and one for Blonde Me at 11:45 a.m. Pacific time on December 8th. Adam Balayage is going to be doing those, and he's phenomenal, so you won't want to miss it. The other part is I do have another Ask Me Anything coming up, so you won't want to miss this. We don't have many more through the rest of the year, so start gathering your questions. Our next one is going to be in December, so come join us for our next Ask Me Anything, and join us right here on the same channel you're at. And don't forget to go to our download center, download any documents you need to kind of help you along the way. And last but not least, our e-Academy. If you have not signed up for our e-Academy yet, go on, find your country. If you're in the US, just click USA, find your country, click on that, and register for our e-Academy. We're doing a lot of changes with that, and we're really excited about the changes that are happening. So register at our e-Academy, which is ask-elearning.com is for our e-Academy. So come and join us there as well. And don't forget to join me next time. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you in December. Happy Thanksgiving.